Alrighty, greetings and salutations, everyone. My name is Andrew Kirchhoff, and welcome to our Friday night live stream for Week 6 of the 2024 fantasy football season. I hope all of you are doing well. Of course, I just concluded watching the Dodgers defeat the Padres. We're advancing to the next round. I'm, of course, very happy about that. But over the course of the next hour, we're talking fantasy football. We're not going to talk about the Dodgers. We're going to talk about fantasy football in regards to your lineups. Of course, there's a lot of information that was revealed today, based on the practice designation, the injury designation as to who's in, who's out, potentially going into this upcoming Sunday's games. Again, a reminder, if you guys haven't yet already, be sure to click the like button down below. Subscribe if you haven't yet already. Of course, tomorrow we'll be live streaming from 1 to 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, along with a Sunday morning live stream like we do every single Sunday morning, starting at 6 a.m. because the first game on Sunday is in fact in London. Bears taking on the Jacksonville Jaguars. That game begins at 6:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, so I'll be live 30 minutes before that. For those of you who are interested, swing on by. We'll have updated rankings on screen. Outside of that, let's get into answering questions for the next hour plus in regards to our Week 6 lineups. Of course, like I mentioned earlier, a lot of interesting news that has been revealed. 24 hours ago when we had this live stream yesterday, we were talking about, Michael Pittman Jr., he's injured. The Colts are, potentially talking about maybe putting him on the injured reserve. And then next thing you know, the next day he practices and he's questionable and he might even go this upcoming Sunday taking on the Tennessee Titans. If you have Michael Pittman Jr., let's just trade him. Please and thank you. Let's just get him off the team. Let's keep it moving, shall we? All right, outside of that, again, answering questions, make sure that you include your scoring format within the question, half PPR, full PPR, standard. The more context that is provided, the easier it is for me to answer the questions. Okay, so let's go to begin with the first question. Ozzy sends in a question. Ozzy Reyna says, in a full PPR, Sermon or Javonte Williams? And Devontae Smith or Flowers? Okay, so this is the way that I would approach it. If Anthony Richardson ends up playing this week for the Indianapolis Colts, which I'm anticipating that he will because he practiced, I would go Javonte Williams instead of Sermon. Because I do believe, based on what we've seen from Anthony Richardson, there's less of a tendency to check it down because of his mobility. So I would play with Javonte Williams in the lineup against the Chargers ahead of Sermon. Now, if it is Flacco, that receiving upside for Sermon can be actualized just like it was last week. And at that point, I would play to the factor of playing Sermon. So very just dependent on who's playing quarterback for the Colts. Still not 100% designated, but it looks like it's most likely going to be Richardson. So we'll tend in the direction of Javonte Williams as of right now. As for your second question, Devontae Smith or Zay Flowers? I mean, again, like we talked about over this the entire course of the season, whenever the Baltimore Ravens are in a matchup in which it is going to be competitive and both teams are scoring back and forth, Zay Flowers is implicated for a large sum of overall opportunity. Thus far this season, in the 3 games in which they have been in a competitive matchup and they haven't blown out the opposing team, they have been in a situation where Zay Flowers every single game has had double-digit targets. So I would lean in the direction of playing Zay Flowers in that circumstance, considering they play the red-hot Washington Commanders. Besides the Baltimore Ravens, the highest-scoring team in the league is the Washington Commanders. So this should be a very exciting game between those two teams. I'll lean towards Zay Flowers there along with Javonte. Thank you, Ozzy. Moving on to the next question, we had one from Zeke Rodriguez. Zeke, thank you. Zeke says, in a full PPR, Andrew, 1 running back, 2 wide receivers, 2 flex. Going into this week, okay, we have Hall, we have Cook, we have Montgomery, Bucky Irving, we have London, McLaurin, Darnell Mooney, Brian Thomas Jr., had Mason starting, still 5-0. Thanks for the help. Yeah, I mean, looking at your team as a whole, I mean, assuming you had Mason starting as your 1 RB and you need 1 more to go, with James Cook still, with that injury, obviously we'll get a little bit more information, probably a designation by tomorrow. Of the available running backs that you have, I'm playing Montgomery. Now, outside of Montgomery, I'm looking at wide receiver and immediately thinking I'd like to play London, McLaurin. I'd also probably like to play Mooney in the flex alongside of Hall. That's probably the direction I'd go in. Now, if we were going to get a designation from Cook that said that he would play, then at that point I'd play Cook over Hall. But that's kind of the direction I'm leaning in as of right now, Zeke. Thank you. BT sends in a question, says, in a full PPR, start 3, we have Bucky, Sermon, Najee, Bigsby, Leggett, and Tolbert. Okay, in a full PPR as it currently stands, the 3 that I would play, if it was my team, would be Bucky, Najee, and Tolbert. I would only ever play Sermon ahead of Najee if, in fact, we were in a situation, like I mentioned earlier, if, in fact, Joe Flacco ends up being the starter this week. Otherwise, it is Bucky, Najee, and Tolbert. Thank you. IG sends in a question. It says the following. Betting all my winnings on Javonte hitting 100 yards, calling it now. Also, Hopkins, Polk, or Judy in a PPR flex. That is a very, very bold statement to make, YG. I don't even... Okay, look. Last week, Javonte Williams was great on in terms of his receiving upside. But in terms of the rushing upside that he has had thus far this season, let's see here. Javonte Williams, has he even sniffed anything close to 100 rushing yards? Against the Jets in a rain game had 77, but nothing relatively close to that. I mean, obviously he's been far better in terms of his efficiency as of late, but against the Chargers, okay, we'll see how that goes. As for your second question, also Hopkins, Polk, or Judy in the flex PPR. I'd rather just play Hopkins there. So yeah, it'll be Hopkins. Yeah, I mean, it'd be Hopkins, Judy, Polk in that order, but I like the matchup for Hopkins versus Indianapolis. Tex Raid sends it a question. Says, pick one in a full PPR, flex. Wide receivers options are Pickens, Ridley, Tolbert, Adunze, Allen, along with running back options are Gibson, Dowdle, Algier, and Ray Davis. In a full PPR out of this group, it's either Pickens or Ridley. I think the safest play of the bunch would be to go with Pickens in this circumstance, taking on the Vegas Raiders secondary, a defense that can't stop anybody. So that's probably the direction that I would position my team in if I was in your position. So yeah, I'd go Pickens number one and then probably Ridley two. I could be convinced to play Ridley, but considering you have a option like Pickens, I'd roll with him. I don't have an issue with that. Football is Life sends in a question. Says, my team, full PPR, consists of Josh Allen, Kenneth Walker, Mason, Pollard, Dowdle, Christian McCaffrey. Okay, got it. Evans, Amon-Ra, Marvin Harrison, Adams, Bowers. Do I trade Marvin Harrison, Adams, and Dowdle for Kenneth Walker? Sorry, whoa. Marvin Harrison, Adams, Dowdle, and Kenneth Walker for Barkley and A.J. Brown. Let me look at this team as a whole real quick. So if you give away that running back, you would still have Christian McCaffrey, Mason, Pollard, and Barkley. And then you would be giving away Marvin Harrison, AJ, and Adams. And you would still... okay, so Football is Life. Considering this league is compact, doesn't have as many teams, and you're able to harness so many studs on your team, I don't mind taking this trade. Do I think it obviously impacts your depth? 100%. But if you cannot start more than two wide receivers in this league and you only have one flex that you can start every week, I take the trade. Thank you, Football is Life. Appreciate it. Dragon the Beast sends in a question. Says, Conklin or Schultz this week, Akers or Bigsby? I'm not playing Akers because I do believe that regardless of whether or not Mixon plays, probably Dameon Pierce will end up playing in his stead. So whichever way it ends up going, whether it's Mixon or Dameon Pierce, they would be the clear number one. And Derek Gumbawale got himself a lot of utilization in the last 2 weeks, so Akers is not really a priority option there. It would be Bigsby. As for Conklin and Schultz, I just stick with Conklin. The target share is just far too much. Ahmed Khan says, CD and James Cook for Amon-Ra St. Brown and Jonathan Taylor. Yeah, I'm cool with that. I don't have an issue with it at all. Is it worth it? I mean, ultimately, we're talking about two stud wide receivers and then two hurt running backs. So I think it's relatively equal in my mind. Obviously, CeeDee Lamb versus Amon-Ra, you would assume that CeeDee Lamb could outproduce him as we progress, but obviously that offense for the Dallas Cowboys is far less than what they were last year, so that certainly has played a factor in the long-term value of CeeDee Lamb. Also, your next question was, what do you think about BTJ and Swift for Jaden Reed? Is it even worth it? No, I think you could probably just keep what you have in that circumstance. Like if you had gotten a little bit of a better potential receiving option in return, I'd say sure, but considering it's Reed instead of somebody like, I don't know, if you went and told me you could theoretically get like Tyreek Hill out of that, I'd say sure. But considering it's Reed, I'll just keep. Just Chrome says, in a one quarterback, 4-point per passing touchdown league, we have Jared Goff or Caleb Williams. I'd play Caleb this week. Pick two in the flex full PPR, Wicks, Kirk, Ridley, Rico. Also Saints or Cincy defense. I'm not playing the Saints defense. No, thank you. So at that point, you'd have to play the Cincy defense if that's your two current options. As for the opportunity of playing, a couple of these flex options, I'm playing Ridley, and I'm probably playing it alongside of the way that I see it right now. It's probably Ridley and Kirk, just to be safe, full PPR, just to get the baseline of production there. All right, Chronofied sends in a question, says start two. Wan'Dale Robinson, Singletary, Tracy, Bucky, and Tolbert. Okay, so there is a lot of uncertainty still. We don't even know if it's going to be Tracy or Singletary. If, in fact, Singletary's active, or if, in fact, if he's inactive, doesn't matter. One of those two start, okay? So if Singletary's going, he gets the start. If he does not, and it's Tracy by himself, he gets the start. I would play whatever player that is alongside of Bucky if it's a half PPR. If it's a full PPR, I probably still play it alongside of Bucky in that circumstance. Thank you. Let's see here. We move on to a question that came in from Andy. He says, yo, Andrew, thoughts on this trade? It's in the comments. Cool. Let me see if I can find it, Andy. Once I do, I'll be able to comment on it in a moment. Let's see. Where is your question? Control F and D. All right. It says trade Dietz. Redraft 10-team half PPR. Give T. Higgins, Rico Dowdle, and Kareem Hunt plus Pacheco to get Neighbors, Aaron Jones, and Braylon Allen. I have Brees. Yeah, sure. I have no issue with that. No issue at all. I think you get the best wide receiver and you get the best running back out of the group. And you don't really have to deal with the Pacheco Hunt situation. At that point, you also secured the handcuff. I don't have an issue with it. I think that's a solid trade there, Andy. Thank you. Powerhouse sent in a question. Thank you, Powerhouse. Says I need one running back. I need a running back, excuse me. Dell for Eckler is fair. I think at that point, you may be giving up. I mean, right now it's fair. Based on what Dell's going to be able to accomplish in the next couple weeks in the absence of Nico Collins, it may not seem as fair. But there's also the injury that is currently plaguing Brian Robinson Jr., which elevates Eckler's value to being that starting back of that team. So ultimately, if Brian Robinson's going to miss time alongside of Nico Collins, both these guys are going to get an elevation. I don't mind the idea of bringing in Eckler in this circumstance. Obviously, if you need the running back this week, this is the trade you kind of have to make. But if you were maybe... Yeah, I think you kind of have to make this. That's fine. If you need the running back, this is the way you go about it. Otherwise, you theoretically could hold on to Dell, wait for him to have some sort of performance that could give him a little bit more value, ship him off next week. And in the meanwhile, if in fact Brian Robinson is deemed inactive, then you would pick up Jeremy McNichols and play him. But again, that's a very much so hypothetical scenario if you wanted to wait. If you can't wait, then you make the trade. That's fine. All right, let's hear. Ant Lee says, flex Shakir or Ford? I don't think Shakir plays, to be honest. He hasn't practiced all of last week, hasn't practiced thus far this week. I know they play on Monday, but considering we don't even get a designation of him, if we don't get a designation by tomorrow in terms of like getting a 100% up or downward trend for him, whether he is or isn't playing, you're going to have to be forced to playing Ford on Sunday against the Eagles. Your follow-up is could pick up Wilson or Leggett. At that point, yeah, I think I'd rather just play Leggett if I had an opportunity to do so. Thank you. Xander O'Malley sends in a question, says, did you play fantasy when Prime Vic played? No, of course not. What are you talking about? Hold up. Prime Vic is, let's see here. Michael Vick stats. Let's just put this into perspective, okay? Just so we're all aware, okay? Michael Vick in his prime, which year was that? Let's see. That's 2000. Where's his like rushing yards total? Adjusted passing? No, this is rushing. Okay, so 2006, okay? 2006, I'm 9 years old, okay? Just to put this into perspective, all right? So we're all on the same page here. I didn't even know what football was, okay? Maybe at 2006, I had seen a Super Bowl. Maybe I saw Seahawks versus Steelers, but I didn't know what was going on. Like, what the heck? I was like, what the heck is this game? I'm leaving. Like, I'm not watching this. At that age, no. There's just there's no conceptual understanding of the game like I have today or even 10 years before now. So yeah, no, I wasn't playing fantasy with Prime Vic out there. How good was he compared to Lamar? Brother, I couldn't even tell you, Xander. I'm probably closer to your age, bro. I don't know what the fuck this is. Let's see here. Thank you for the question, Xander. But yeah, no, not even close, bro. I'm 21. I figured you might have played in high school or something. Yeah, but I wasn't in high school in 2006. I was in elementary school. There's a big difference, right? What is 9? 9 is like the 4th grade, right? Like 4th, 5th grade, maybe. All right, thank you. Let's see here. Rogo sends in a question. Says, sup, Andrew? How do I look for week 6 in a standard half PPR scoring format? We have CJ Stroud. We have Debo, who played well already. We have Diggs, Mason, Gibbs, cool, Kincaid, Montgomery, Seibert, Denver defense, along with Baker on the bench. I'd honestly play Baker over CJ, but okay. Higgins. I'd probably play Higgins. Okay, you can leave Higgins there. Swift, Tolbert, Jenny. Yeah, okay. That's the only difference that I would potentially change. But if you have an inkling on the potential of CJ Stroud being higher than Baker, then I could understand the swap there. What to do with Higgins? Honestly, at this point, there's nothing to do with Higgins because in the future, right, when Mason maybe doesn't play next week, you're going to have to play Montgomery and Gibbs alongside of each other and then play Higgins in the flex. So I'm not trading him away. I'm keeping him and maybe even trading Swift if you need to. Thank you. Kyle sends in a question. Says 2 in the flex, half PPR. Bigsby, Moss, Kraft, Sutton. Okay, let's see here. Bigsby, Moss, Kraft, Sutton. And then you put Rosh. Who the heck is Rosh? Who the heck is Rosh? Let me see if Kyle had sent in something else to like amend what the heck Rosh is. I don't even know what the heck Rosh is, bro. Let's see. Yeah, I don't know. Okay, so just off of the players that I understand based on their names, if I'm starting two of them, it's probably Moss alongside of Kraft. Thank you. Appreciate it, Kyle. Aaron K says in a full PPR, Wando Robinson or Tolbert or Marvin Harrison. Out of those three, I'd be very comfortable playing Marvin Harrison. That's fine. Baba Booey says start two in a PPR. Dowdle, Dobbs, Downs, Sutton, Coleman. If I'm starting two of those potential options, I'd probably play Downs alongside of Dowdle if it's my team. Also, should I start Chase or Moss at RB2? I would start Chase at RB2. That's the way that I'd go about it. Thank you. Connor sends in a question. Says, I have Bowers and Kelsey. Got to trade. Got two trade offers. Mike Kelsey plus Smitty for Neighbors and Mike Kelsey. Okay, wait. Let's see this trade. You have Bowers and Kelsey. Perfectly fine. You got two trade offers. Mike Kelsey plus Smitty for Neighbors and Kelsey and Connor for Chase Brown plus Neighbors. Interesting. I would rather... I don't love either trade, but considering, let me see here. You have Kyron, Connor, K9, AJ Brown, Reed, and BTJ. I'd probably take Kyron, K9. If you theoretically, okay. If it's me, I'd rather take the second trade. I'll take the Kelsey Connor one for Chase Brown and Neighbors. That's the one that I prefer out of the two. Because I think if you're giving away Smitty and Kelsey, just getting back one player, it's not as beneficial to you, ultimately, in my opinion. Thank you. Let's see here. Mo Money sends in a question. Says, I got offered Kyron and DJ Moore for Alvin Kamara. Kyron and DJ Moore for Alvin Kamara. I'm okay with that. Yeah, let's take the deal. If you need that wide receiver help, I think Kyron's going to be great, especially once we get, of course, Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp back into the lineup. See part 3 of question in the chat. Thank you. Okay, Shackle, let's see where it's at. Shackle says the following. Half PPR. Running backs, should I drop Rachaad White or Ford, then pick up Dowdle or Bigsby? Yeah, I'd be willing to drop Ford and pick up Dowdle until you can wait until putting Rachaad White into your IR spot. And then continuing on, wide receiver, drop Wicks for Downs, Lazard, or Watson. I'd be willing to drop Wicks for Downs under the assumption that he's healthy. Again, he popped up on the injury report, which doesn't really make me feel that much more confident on the scenario. And then on your follow-up question, drop Freiermuth for Likely or Strange. Strange is not going to play you. Again, Ingram will be active this week, so you don't have to worry about that. Am I dropping Fryer for Likely? Probably not. I'd probably keep it as is. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Moving on to the next question on hand, we have from AG, who says it. My running backs are JG and JJ. My wide receivers are Amon-Ra, Marvin Harrison. Should I flex T. Higgins, Swift, or Evans? Out of the three, I'd rather just flex T. Higgins there. Thank you, AG. Appreciate it. Daniel Chavez sends in a question. Says, number 1, PPR, start 1 running back, 2 wide receivers, 2 flex. And the flex consists of running back and wide receiver. I have Bijan Montgomery, Evans, Harrison, Deontay, Bucky, Adunze, Tolbert, and Lad McConkey. Okay, so of the available that you have, the one running back that I'd start, Daniel Chavez, would be Bijan Robinson. The 2 wide receivers that I would start would be Marvin Harrison and Deontay Johnson. And the 2 flex that I would play are Montgomery and Bucky Irving. Thank you. As for your next question, 2, would you drop Tolbert to pick up Wicks? Look, here's the thing about Wicks. With Christian Watson not actually getting a diagnosed high ankle sprain, his recovery process is going to be way quicker to the extent to where we're back and ready to go. So I don't mind that idea of picking up Tolbert there. JT sent in a question. Thank you, JT. Says trade ETN, Bigsby, JSN, Ford for Mixon. ETN, Bigsby, JSN, Ford for Mixon. My lineup is Fields, Love, Chase, Lamb, Waddle, JSN, Ladd, Jacobs. Okay. You have ETN, Bigsby, Ford. So theoretically, you'd be giving up those 3 and a JSN, which really doesn't play a factor on your team, just for 1 Mixon. Ultimately, I think you are definitely giving up too much, but I don't mind it. Like, I don't want Ford. I think he's trade fodder. ETN and Bigsby, I don't know if they'll be able to be started separately. I don't know if there's that much value within Jacksonville's backfield to be able to start them separately so they're basically just one back. And then you have JSN. I'd honestly take the Mixon side. If he's healthy for the remainder of the season, like, you're gonna start him every single week in comparison to the cornucopia of players that you're giving away here that I guess could help somebody else, but in your case, don't really start in your team. Thank you. Bedbosh says, what are your thoughts on stashing Vidal and Polk? Yeah, I have no issue stashing Vidal, especially considering Gus Edwards is injured and is not going to play this week. So that does give Vidal a little bit of an exposure of opportunity. But understand the last 3 games that J.K. Dobbins has played, he has had 18 touches in each of those 3 games. So Vidal maybe get a little bit of exposure of opportunity here and there, but he's still going to be the second fiddle. He's going to be the number 2. It's not a 1A, 1B kind of conversation there. But he can certainly be stashed in case of anything happening to J.K. Dobbins. As for Polk, obviously it's very much so dependent on whether or not Drake May is the next coming of a good quarterback. Obviously, all the rookie quarterbacks that have played thus far this season, the names Jaden Daniels, Caleb Williams, and of course, Bo Nix, they've all played relatively well. If somehow, some way, the Patriots can help Drake May accomplish something, that Polk certainly could be of value. I don't mind stashing either of them, but again, don't expect much. The reason why they are stashes is because they don't have to actually pop off. Thank you. Daniel Barnes. And again, they're only available because they aren't implicated for much points, unfortunately. All right, let's see here. Moving on, the next question comes in from Daniel Barnes, who says, Pacheco was dropped. Definitely add him, right? Yeah, absolutely. Put him on your IR. Thank you. Moving on to a question that comes in from Pipe Down, who says, PPR, I have JT. Okay, so JT, Jonathan Taylor. We have Gibbs, Moss, Evans, Pittman, Pickens, Shakir. Was offered Javonte Williams and Olave for JT and Sermon. Would you take? No, I would keep it as is. I'd like to have JT on my team rest of the season. Thank you. Shrey E says, I have to start Leggett or Tracy in a PPR flex. Instead of that, do I drop Leggett for a 1-week Slayton play? No, I wouldn't do that. I mean, look, in terms of the long-term value of your team, it's probably more beneficial to have Leggett on it. So I probably just keep, and if somehow, some way we get into a situation where Singletary is active this week, right? Then you would not play Tracy and you play Leggett. Otherwise, if Singletary is inactive, then you play Tracy and you're good to go. Now, if you were in a situation where you're like, Andrew, I need the most potential for upside. I don't care if I lose Leggett. Honestly, he's only playing because I have X, Y, or Z on the bye week. Then sure, I'd make that 1-week swap. But otherwise, no. X Reese 2010 says full PPR, no neighbors. Flex Tolbert or Slayton. I'd rather play Slayton. I have him ranked higher. Thank you. Moving on to Pipe Down, who says drop Christian Watson or Juwan Jennings to hold the Vikings defense. Yeah, I would drop Juwan Jennings in order to ensure that. Thank you. Moving on to a question that comes in from Connor, who says continued. Also have Ayuk/JSN if I trade Connor. I have to start Chase Brown because Kyron is on a bye. I have a lot of receivers on that. Yeah, okay, that's fine. I mean, look, I also have Ayuk and JSN if I trade Connor. Again, you're trading for Chase Brown. So if you were to do the second half of that trade, right, in which you're not okay. So I understand why you're mentioning Ayuk and JSN because giving away Smitty makes it a little bit easier in that circumstance. But if you trade away Connor, then you're in a little bit of a tougher situation. I get it. As it stands, I understand that you have Bowers, but giving away Kelsey and Smitty just for neighbors, I think is just too much. I'd rather at least be able to go for 2 for 2, even if it means giving up Connor, just to get back a little bit more value in my mind with Chase Brown, who I evidently believe is going to take over that backfield. But yeah, if you don't feel comfortable with it and you'd rather just hold on to Connor just to have an insured running back kind of position, because obviously there's a questionable tag with Chase Brown, then you could do the other trade. If you have an abundance of wide receiver depth, then losing Smitty won't theoretically hurt that badly. It won't make that big of an impact. I just, I see it differently because I hold Devontae Smith at such high value. Thank you for the question. Appreciate it. All right. Chief sends in a question. Says, in a half PPR, 1 quarterback, 3 and 2, my team consists of Love, Hurts, Neighbors, AJ Brown, Diggs, DJ, as in Deontay Johnson, Barkley, Dowdle, Kincaid, Irving, and Charbonnet. Traded my Diggs/Bucky Irving for Collins. Traded Love for Ferguson. Traded Charbonnet for Tank. My bench okay, cool. Sounds good. I don't have an issue with any of these trades. Again, you're cashing in there, looking forward for the future. You're cashing in there because you have Jalen Hurts and he's just passed his bye week. And then you're cashing in there in order to flip Charbonnet for Tank, which again provides a little bit more immediate value rather than just a handcuff. Yeah, I have no issue with the trade at all. Well done, Chief. Across the board, well done. Sammy Munoz sends it a question. Says, bench one, Amon-Ra, A.J. Brown, Drake London, or CeeDee Lamb? If I have to sit one, I'm sitting A.J. Brown. I'd rather play the other three. Thank you. Moving on to a question that comes in from Jordan H. Johnson, who says, help. Need to pick up a defense to stream this week. I have Minnesota on a bye. Flex one, drop one. Hopkins, Wan'Dale Robinson, Tolbert, Rico, and Sermon. I'm dropping Sermon. Actually, it's between dropping Hopkins and Sermon. Hopkins has a little bit more extended value rest of the season because, again, eventually Jonathan Taylor returns. On top of it, Hopkins also has a little bit more value because he could theoretically be traded in the coming weeks here in case. So, yeah, I mean, it would be Sermon that gets dropped out of all of the available players that you have mentioned here, Jordan, in order to pick up defense. Thank you. Moving on to a question that comes in from Frank H. Thank you, Frank. Frank says, in a full PPR, Bigsby, Brian Robinson Jr., Tyrone Tracy, pick one. If Brian Robinson Jr. is active, he would be the starting running back of the group. Now, if in fact he is not active, then you would simply just kind of pivot to the idea of it's like, all right, is Singletary active? If he is, then you don't play Tracy, then you go pivoting to playing the Bigsby. But the issue is Bigsby plays in London in the morning. So with this taking into consideration, you would have to, Frank, do the following. You'd have to have an open IR spot so that once you don't play Bigsby in the London game, you would be pivoting to Brian Robinson and Tyrone Tracy, to where if in fact Tyrone Tracy has Singletary active and Brian Robinson is inactive, you would have to move Brian Robinson to your IR and then subsequently pick up Jeremy McNichols from the Washington Commanders and play him instead. Or if you don't have an open IR spot, drop Tracy and then pick up Jeremy McNichols. That would be the pivoting options there. Now, as for your second question, BTJ, Tank Dell, Olave, or Downs, pick two. As of right now, it would probably be Dell alongside of probably playing BTJ there. Thank you. Sammy Munoz sent in a follow-up, says Tucker Kraft or Sam Laporta. For this week, I'd rather play Sam Laporta. Rest of season, though, Tucker Kraft certainly has value, especially with Luke Musgrave earlier today being placed on the injured reserve, which obviously definitely helps. Okay, caught up there. Good to go. Hope you guys are doing well. For those of you joining us on this kind of later stream, I understand for those of you who are on the East Coast, obviously this is a 11 p.m. stream. For those of you who are on the West Coast alongside of me, of course, it's 8 o'clock. There's still places to be, people to see. It's very early within this Friday night. But of course, I wanted to tap in, say what's up, answer some questions going into week 6. Of course, tomorrow and Sunday, we'll have more and more information. Of course, do not forget, tomorrow we'll be live streaming from 1 to 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time like we do every Saturday afternoon. And Sunday morning, we'll be live streaming like we do every Sunday morning, but a little bit different this time, starting at 6 a.m. Pacific Standard Time because of the London game, starting at 6:30 a.m. So we'll, of course, be there to answer questions prior to that game beginning. And then once that game is started, we'll be watching together, answering questions, and getting our lineup set ready to go. If you guys haven't checked out the Hidden Gems video of week 6 earlier today was posted. The thumbnail is on the bottom right of the screen as I just pointed to it. Again, a lot of potential good player and potential options there that could be available in your league if in fact you are dealing with injuries, but not only injuries, an abundance of bye week players missing over the course of this week. Because again, where with the Chiefs, the Miami Dolphins, the Minnesota Vikings, and of course the Los Angeles Rams out, there's a lot of players that were fill-in options for a while there because of all the injuries that have taken place. But hopefully we'll be good to go. Shackle said, half PPR rest of the season, Wicks, Watson, Lazard, or Downs. Honestly, between the bunch of them, I think it's Downs. That's the way that I see it. Mainly because, again, I think he could very easily be a comfort security blanket for Anthony Richardson in order to help him in the short intermediate game, in which it does not exist thus far right now for Anthony Richardson. All right, let's see here. Constantino says, what's up, bro? In a PPR, my running backs are Kyron, Kenneth, JK, Rico, Bucky, and Bigsby. Would you drop Bigsby or Shaheed to bring on Devontae Smith as my wide receiver 3 off of the IR? Between the two of them, I'd rather drop Bigsby. I'd rather keep Shaheed on roster because, again, eventually Derek Carr will come back, and Shaheed has been incredible with Carr. And, hey, you never know. Maybe Rattler comes in and just takes over the league, and at that point, Shaheed continues to maintain his value. So, yeah, it would be Bigsby as the drop, just purely off of the alternative options that you have. Not a matter of him being a lesser option, but rather in comparison being a lesser option. Tracy or Sermon? It's probably going to be Sermon because I think Singletary probably does end up playing. Jared? Pick one in the flex full PPR, Deontay, Diop, or Dobbins. I'd probably just play Deontay there because of the full PPR format, John Silva. CR7 says, should I start Wan'Dale Robinson, Olave, Mooney, or BTJ this week? Out of those available options, CR7, I'd feel most comfortable playing Mooney in that circumstance. Kevin says, Wan'Dale Robinson or Bucky, depends on format. If we're talking about even in a full PPR, I feel pretty comfortable rolling with Bucky. I could be convinced to play Wan'Dale Robinson, but if it's a half PPR standard, I think Bucky without a doubt. Jared says no shave November. You mean no shave January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September, November. You mean full year, right? Mr. says, should I start Bigsby? I mean, you could. I mean, what's your alternative options, Mr.? Just tell me what your alternative options are. And at that point, I could definitely dwindle it down to a couple of the key prime opportunity guys that you have that could end up having themselves an upside performance within the week. Auntie Slayer sends in a question. Auntie, hope you're doing well. Says, trade a third-round pick and BTJ Mason Garendo for J-Jet? Yes. Look, here's the thing. Is this a dynasty league? When you say a third-round pick, is this a keeper or a dynasty? I have Jalen Hurts, Bijan Robinson. Like, if you're looking to win now, actually, now that I think about it, regardless of what kind of format this is, you take the trade. If you're getting Justin Jefferson, regardless of what you are trading, regardless of the format, Jefferson is the most valuable and by far and away most valuable prospect in the circumstance to where it doesn't matter what the format is. You just take Justin Jefferson blindly. Shackle says half PPR follow-up. Yeah, again, it's going to be downs there, Shackle. Craig Newman says drop Chase Brown for Tank Dell in a half PPR. I'd never drop Chase Brown. I think he's going to take over that backfield. Obviously, if you need wide receiver help, I'd look to do it some other way, but I don't want to drop Chase Brown. In terms of rest of the season rankings, he's really high up there. I do really believe that he's going to overtake the backfield, and he's already demonstrated that he's hyper efficient when given opportunities. And I'm sure that the coaching staff has easily noticed that thus far over the course of the last couple weeks here. All right, let's see here. Scrolling down, Roy Powell has sent in a super chat. Thank you, Roy. Says, would you trade Rico and Keenan Allen for Warren? No, I don't want Warren right now. Warren's knee injury continues to re-aggravate. To the extent to where I'm not really interested in investing in that anymore. I was very much so interested after week 1 because I thought it was just a hamstring. And now that the PCL injuries kind of started to dig into the overall conversation in the last 3 weeks, it's not something that I'm really interested in. Let's see here. Hood says, should I trade Garrett Wilson and Ferguson for A.J. Brown and McBride? Yes, I take A.J. Brown and McBride in a heartbeat. Thank you. Darius Slayton or Zach Moss in a PPR. If it's just this week, I'd play Darius Slayton there. Richie Lou says, hey, Andrew, should I start Braylon, Roshan, or Dare this week? You'd only ever play Dare Gumbawale if Mixon was out. So then after that, you'd have to kind of be in a position to, well, okay, here's the issue. Mixon's designation, if it doesn't get settled tomorrow, it won't get settled until after that Chicago Bears game. So then if you don't know if you don't know that, you're either playing Dare or you're playing Braylon Allen. And likelihood is you're probably playing Braylon Allen by the end of that, which I don't really love. Yeah. If I were to start Roshan or Dare, I'd have to drop Braylon. So yeah, then you're keeping Braylon, and that's probably your play in that circumstance. Because again, Roshan requires you to play him at 6:30 a.m. PST on Sunday morning, which is way before Mixon's probable designation, which is way before Dare. And if Mixon's active, then Dare is not worth it. Then you're pivoting to Monday with Braylon Allen. Thank you. All right, let's see here. Auntie Slayer sent in a follow-up. Says 12-man, let's see here. 3-keeper league, full PPR. Yeah, look, if it's a 3-keeper league, I'd like to have J-Jet on my team. Because for the rest of this season, it is very valuable. And for the future, it's very valuable. Thank you. Connor has sent in a follow-up. Says, continued, one more offer. Connor/Kelsey for Neighbors and ETN. Wow, you trust ETN more than Chase Brown, huh? It seems as if that is the case, Connor. Honestly, I think I'd rather have Chase Brown rest of the season. I think I might be in the minority when thinking of that, but that's just kind of how I value it. If you would like to, again, yeah, I'm so not interested in investing in ETN as much as I have a lot of shares of ETN, but I'm so not interested that I'd rather just go back to that Smitty trade. Connor. Bearcat sends in a question, says PPR flex, Bucky, BTJ, Ferguson. between the three of them in a full PPR, I think I end up playing Bucky there. Like Ferguson probably gets himself 6 catches for 60 yards, has the upside of a touchdown. So that's about 12 points base minimum. I think Bucky's certainly able to compete in that kind of category and probably have even more touchdown upside in comparison. So that's the direction I lean in, Bucky. I've played streaming defense like you have, and I have a question. Chargers defense or Broncos defense, your thoughts, rest of the season, and for the rest of the season. Yeah, so this is the way that I see it. In terms of which of those two defense I prefer, I'd like to have the Broncos defense rest of the season. In my main home league, I'm going to run the Broncos defense until the wheels fall off or until the bye week arises. Now, Broncos schedule, let's see, where exactly is their bye week within the overall mix here? So looking at the schedule upcoming, they don't have a bye until week 14. So again, you're going to be able to rely upon that defense. Their upcoming matchups, again, this week, Chargers, the week after, Spencer Rattler and the New Orleans Saints, and the week after, Andy Dalton and the Carolina Panthers. 3 easy matchups. Then you get into the, murderer's row of games of sorts. But again, there still could be a possibility in which they could survive when you have the Denver Broncos taking on the Baltimore Ravens, the Kansas City Chiefs, and then the Atlanta Falcons. I could see them performing well against Kansas City and Atlanta. As for Baltimore, that's probably the 1 week that we would pivot off. And then after that kind of streak, you have Las Vegas, Cleveland, which again are 2 easy matchups, Indianapolis in the playoffs, Chargers in the match in the playoffs, and then week 17 against the Bengals. At that point, we could have a injured Joe Burrow by then, considering the history of NFL and fantasy football as of late. But either way, yeah, the Broncos are the more valuable one of the group, and they got a pretty good schedule coming up here. Thank you. All right, moving on to a question that comes in from BDH, who says, is Neighbors' concussion really that serious? I mean, it has to be, right? This is the thing, right? Neighbors has to clear a benchmark in order to in order for him to be removed from the concussion protocol. If he is not hitting that benchmark on a consistent basis, then that absolutely means that he is in shambles. So again, it's just a matter of, unfortunately, yeah, it must be that bad. And also, it's the first concussion he's ever had in his career, at least a severe concussion, because anybody who plays football probably sustains a concussion of a sort, but they don't get I get knocked out completely like he did on the sideline against the Cowboys. All right, really quickly, I need to do something real quick. One moment, everybody. Let me just take care of this. All righty, we took care of that. We're good to go. Just wanted to make sure everything's good. All right, moving on. Bruce Cowdery has sent in a question. Says, thoughts on Tucker with all of the Raiders wide receivers questionable and injured, full PPR. I mean, look, he's going to have value. Regardless of what we want, really it's going to be Bowers number 1, Myers number 2, and Tucker number 3. And I don't think he's a bad option. This is an offense that cannot run the ball and are going to have to throw the ball for majority of games going forward. So Tucker's going to be of value. Is he an automatic top 36 start, top 40? Probably not, but he's definitely in the top 50 for sure. Yeah, he gets himself enough opportunity. Bears secondary has some major injuries. Yeah, I saw that, which definitely does help. But as long as Jalen Johnson's still active, it doesn't matter. Jalen Johnson's the issue. All right, let's see here. God's Gang sends in a question. It says, I need a win. Do I drop Bigsby? I'm an ETN owner for Gibson and flex him over Olave this week. Yeah, I mean, at this point, considering ETN again, ETN, his shoulder injury isn't to the extent to where it's like knocking him out of games or him missing significant time. If you're able to drop Bigsby, you pick up Gibson, who is going to be a starter, and additionally could end up continuing to start if Ramondre misses time. I'd make the swap. Dylan Matos sends in a question. Says, PPR, start 2. Bucky, Najee, ETN, start 1, Pickens, and Amari. Okay. Bucky, Najee, ETN, I go with Bucky. As for Pickens and Amari Cooper, I'll take Pickens. Thank you. Moving on to, let's see here, Sexual Steve, who says, PPR, I have Brian Robinson Jr. If out, do I start Roshan or McNichols? So considering the Bears play in the early morning, you're not going to know whether or not Brian Robinson is out before that Bears game has already begun in London. Therefore, your only pivoting option will be Jeremy McNichols of the Commanders. So that would be the way to go about it. Thank you. Powerhouse sends in a question. Says, Ridley or McConkey this week? I'd rather play Ridley. Ever so slightly, but yes, that's the direction I go in. Thank you. All right. Neighbors has seen at a concert party. Yeah, I know. I saw that, Connor. Trust me. I do my rounds of research. I did see that. But, I mean, the thing is, we know for sure that every day he wants to get out on the field, right? We don't question his overall, willingness to play. It's not a matter of willingness. It's just a matter of, do the doctors clear him? And that's it. And unfortunately, he just hasn't been cleared. Moving on to a question that comes in from Fizzin, who says, I have CD starting, Tolbert or Slayton in the flex. I'd rather play Slayton this week. Thank you. Basa B says, in a standard, starting Bucky, okay, and Chase as my running backs. I need 2 wide receivers and a flex between Pickens, BTJ, Downs, Wicks, and Bigsby and ETN. Okay, so of the available options you have here, the way that I'd probably go about it, I'd only ever play Downs if Flacco was the starter. Otherwise, it's Pickens and BTJ a wide receiver along with ETN in the flex. Thank you. Let's see here. Mixon's back. I mean, we'll see by Sunday morning. I can't guarantee that. Obviously, we're leaning in that direction, but nothing guaranteed at the moment. Trife sends in a question, says Gibson, Sermon, Slayton, McLeod, as in Ray Ray, okay, at the flex, full PPR. Out of those available options, I'd honestly just play Slayton there. Where does Gibson rank with Ramondre out? I have no clue. I haven't even adjusted it accordingly. Again, today's been a busy day. By tomorrow, I'll certainly have my rankings a little bit sharper. If I had to guess, I'd probably put him where Ramondre was, honestly, which is like just barely outside of the top 24, maybe at 24, 23, something like that. Powerhouse sends in another question, says, was offered Hill/BTJ for Lamb. Thoughts? I'd only ever make that trade again if you can survive the next couple weeks in the absence of Hill. Hill, obviously Hill doesn't have, doesn't play this week because of the bye week, and the next week after does not have Tua Tagovailoa until expected to be potentially week 8, 9. In which he'd return, but I'd only ever make that trade if you have like a 4-1, 3-2, 4-1, 5-0 record, and you can afford to have the absence of Hill. D Hundo sends in a question, says the following. Let me just really quickly take care of this. All right, good to go. Sorry about that, guys. D Hundo says, in a 10-team full PPR, 2 running backs, 3 wide receivers, and 2 flex. Fields, Hall, Kamara, AJ Brown, Debo, Olave, Garrett Wilson, Reed. Should I trade Kamara for Dak, Pollard, and Kirk? No, you don't need to. Keep it as is. I'd rather have Fields. Pollard is cool, but I don't need Kirk. I'd rather just have Kamara on my team. Thank you. Nathan Salazar has a follow-up question, or just a first question of the day. What's up, Nathan? Says, do I start Tank or Tolbert in a full PPR? I'd rather play Tank though. Start 1 running back, Justice Hill, Algier, Davis for Buffalo. You'd only ever play Davis if we get a confirmation by tomorrow that James Cook is not playing. Otherwise, you're pretty much forced to having to play. If it's a full PPR, I'd probably end up playing Justice Hill. If it's a half PPR standard, I'd probably end up playing Algier in that circumstance. Antonio in the chat says Tracy or Sermon. I'd only ever play Tracy if, in fact, we get a confirmation that Singletary is out. Outside of that scenario, it has to be Sermon because we know that Taylor's for sure out. Alejandro says, Slayton or Adunze? I'd rather play Slayton this week. On Ando, A says, in a half PPR, I'm 2-3. We have Brian Robinson, Kareem Hunt, Tucker Kraft for Barkley. Yes, I take Barkley there in a heartbeat. Not even a question in my mind, for sure. Cali Bear says, who we like more? Zach Moss splitting time with Chase Brown or Mixon in limited practice? If Mixon is active, I'd rather play him. Thank you. Pick one, Gibson or Slayton in a full PPR. I'd rather play Slayton. Wandell or Ridley? I'd probably rather play Ridley. I don't like the matchup for Wandell Robinson against Mike Hilton. That's just primarily the issue. Alejandro's, okay, we took care of that one. Lou sends in a question. Thank you, Lou. Lou says the following. Full PPR, 1 flex, 1 flex, full PPR, 3-2. Trade Hubbard for Hawkinson. I have Bijan, Mixon, Mostert. Moore, Pickens, Kincaid. No, I'd want more. If I'm trading away Hubbard, I better be giving back Bowers, Kelsey, Laporta. Like, I want someone who's healthy and playing now. I think giving away Hubbard for that seems a little bit too cheap. Like, you're getting a little bit fleeced in that scenario. I understand eventually Hubbard will disappear because of Jonathan Brooks and his emergence, but as it currently stands, I think it's not the greatest potential trade in that circumstance. Ali sends in a question. Ali, there's nothing attached to it. Let me see if I can find anything from you beforehand. Maybe Control F, Ali. Nothing from before. If you could do me a favor, type in the live chat, we greatly appreciate it. Thank you. All right, Ali says, quarterbacks are Daniels and Stroud. My running backs are Achane, Gibbs, Hunt, Singletary, Tracy. Oh, there goes my YouTube. It just crashed. hopefully it won't crash anymore. All right, let's see here. So where's the question? Here it is. Singletary, Tracy, Sermon, Bucky. Wide receivers are Garrett Wilson, Tank Dell, Leggett, Cup. My tight ends are McBride and Kraft. Who do I trade for and away? Okay. So as it currently stands, this is the way that I go about it. Tucker Kraft needs to be moved. You're trying to find a team that needs a tight end. You talk them into trading for Kraft, mainly because Luke Musgrave just went to the injured reserve, and Tucker Kraft is on an absolute heater of a couple game streak here. Additionally, if you're trading away other players, I'm okay trading away Hunt. I'm okay trading away probably. Actually, yeah, I'm okay trading away Hunt if you can get some immediate value for him. Outside of that, that's the only two that I'm looking to get rid of. As for what you can get in return, you'd obviously be looking for a more stable running back in exchange, to the extent to where hopefully somebody can give you. I'm trying to think of a running back that hasn't played particularly well, but that I want to potentially get in exchange for that. Actually, I have to think about that for a second. Because I don't think you can actually get a lot of running back value in return for that. You already have Achane, which is like the long-term kind of buy. Let's go look at these lists of running backs. So if I'm looking up and down the list of potential running back prospects you can theoretically go after, I mean, it's probably like you have to go after ETN, which I don't hate, but I don't love it either. That's probably the way you'd have to go. Or you try to go buy low on Chase Brown right now. I don't think you can get a Jacobs. I don't think you can get a Pollard. You might be able to get a J.K. Dobbins, which I wouldn't mind either. I think the J.K. Dobbins works as well in that circumstance. That's probably the more, in terms of likelihood of making a deal, that's probably one of them. Otherwise, maybe going after Mixon could end up working. Let's see here. Benny sends in a question. Thank you, Benny. Says, good day, Andrew. I'm here to tell chat to like the video and subscribe. Thank you, Benny. I appreciate it. Yes, if you guys haven't yet already, do me a favor. Click the like button down below. Continues to help support the channel. Thank you. Jay, bring him back, says, trade Kamara for Mixon and McLaurin. Thoughts? Only if Mixon was fully healthy and we got a designation that he plays tomorrow. Otherwise, no. Because again, the only reason you'd ever make that trade is because you want McLaurin because your wide receivers are in absolute shambles. Otherwise, you wouldn't make that kind of a deal. So if he's active, he's ready to go this week, then I would not mind it if that is your current circumstance. Thank you. All right, we had another question from Chernobyl Clocks, who says, I have JT, Kyron, starting Josh Jacobs and Chase Brown. With Brown questionable and Cook questionable, could I pick up Ty Johnson if Brown can't go? If Brown can't go, then yes, you would pick up Ty Johnson or Ray Davis, whichever one is available, preferably Ray Davis. Thank you. Moving on to a question from Spencer Goldman, who says, hi, PPR, Tank Dell or Darnell Mooney? Wow, that's really close. I'd probably play Tank Dell, but you know what? Honestly, Darnell Mooney's reception count in a PPR is a little bit more enticing. Yeah, let's take Darnell Mooney in that circumstance. Thank you. Bacon says, PPR, should I drop Freiermuth for Conklin or Schultz? I'm okay dropping him for Conklin. I don't think that the offensive coordinator change is going to affect him that greatly. I think he'll still be a pretty big part of that offense. Thank you. Jacob sends in a question, says, who should I start at the flex? Kraft, Sutton, or Kirk? Honestly, I'd play Kraft out of the group. Bobby Reyes says, PPR, super flex, I have Allen and Lamar. Trade Daniels Cooper, 2025 third round pick, 25 third round pick for Achane, Diggs, Bigsby, 26 first. Wanted BTJ instead of Diggs, but couldn't. So when you say trade Daniels, okay, in a super flex league, you mean Jaden Daniels, correct? I would want more in compensation in return. Honestly, I would like more. I don't like a 26 first is okay, but like if it's not an early first, I don't what are we doing? I think I'd want more in return. Maybe I'm crazy, but I don't want Diggs. Like I want a younger player in exchange for this. Like obviously Diggs will help you now, maybe next season, but after that, I don't know where Diggs goes for the rest of his career. Obviously he's like a smooth route runner, so his longevity as a player is going to be significantly longer because of his ability to play, from the outside, not going in and playing within the slot position. But if it's me, I'd want more in exchange. I'd try. Honestly, you couldn't get BTJ, sure, but I try to get more in compensation. If nothing will budge elsewhere, then maybe you hold until otherwise noted somebody has a quarterback injury, or you take the deal and just hope that that 25th or 26th first overall pick ends up being a higher one. Thank you. Matt Glore sends in a question. Says my question is in the live chat. Okay, Matt says I'm in a 12-team dynasty PPR. Guy wants downs plus picks for Ayuk. Is a first and downs too much? Is a first? Okay, depends. For Ayuk. Is it a 25 first? That's my question. And then follow up, is it going to be an early or late round? Like, do you expect to make the playoffs and compete in the end of this season, Matt? Just type it in the live chat. Thank you. Chris Moraga says, in a half PPR, start one wide receiver and two flex. Deontay Johnson, Ridley, Kirk, Tolbert, Allen, Ford, Moss. Okay, so of the available, start one wide receiver. It's Deontay Johnson. Two flex options out of the available. I would probably end up playing Moss alongside of Calvin Ridley. Thank you. Stomps says PPR, my wide receivers are Wilson, Evans, BTJ, Olave, Cup. My running backs are Breece Hall, Jacobs. Should I trade Olave and JSN for Swift? I think you're maybe giving up a little bit too much just for Swift. If I was going to look for a potential suiting option, I'd go after like a Pollard if potentially available. Thank you. Luis Castillo says, standard 10-team league, wide receivers are Mooney, Pickens, Sutton, Kirk, Worthy, Dell, and Puka Nacua on the IR. Watson, Dobbs, Slayton, Ridley on the waivers. Okay. Who do I drop in at? I mean, honestly, if it's my team, I think I'm very comfortable moving Sutton for Ridley. That's the only change that I'd make there. Thank you. Appreciate it. Start 8, and I can flip Ayuk later. The late 25 first, then that's fine. I'm okay with that. If that is the context, I'm okay with it. Hey, Andrew, who do I start in the flex? Myers, Davis, or Slayton? I just probably play Jacoby Myers there. Probably. Now, obviously, if he's healthy, obviously he's questionable to even play. We'll have to wait and see if that ends up being a thing. Hey, Andrew, would you drop Ray Davis to pick up Gibson now that Stevenson is out? Yes, I would. That's fine by me. Aaron Moreno says, start Wicks or Slayton? I'd rather play Slayton this week. Thank you. Full PPR, Cousins or Fields? I have Cousins ahead of Fields this week. Nick Graham says, start one half PPR, Olave, Najee, or Javonte. In a half PPR, I probably end up playing Javonte there. Let's see here. Cravers says full PPR, Ridley, Cooper, Kirk, or Wicks. Honestly, I'm playing Ridley there. Cousins or Fields. Yeah, we already took care of that. Cali Bear says, with Derek Carr out multiple weeks, how do we feel about Taysom Hill? Taysom Hill's not even playing this week. He's injured. He's out for the week already. So it's not looking great for him. Without... what is that? I don't even know what that is. Okay, moving on. We took care of that. Blitz says Chase Brown or Antonio Gibson in a half PPR. I'd probably honestly rather play Chase Brown if it was my team. That's the way that I'd go about it, at least personally. Let's see here. Kaiser says, just traded Hunt for Pollard. That's a steal. I don't know how you got away with it, but congratulations. Bill says, non-PPR standard. I have Evans, Olave, Mooney, Dell, and Worthy. Pick 3, and should I possibly stack... Okay, so here's the thing. Of those available options, Worthy doesn't even play because he's on bye week, so it's pretty much Olave, Mooney, Dell, and Evans, and at that point, I'd probably just go with Olave, Mooney, and Dell out of those options. Thank you. Gibson or Sermon this week? Probably Gibson. Only played Sermon over Gibson if, in fact, we're in a scenario where, if Richardson's out and Flacco is the starter. Thank you. Cortez G says in a PPR, Connor, Garrett Wilson, or David Montgomery in the flex. That's tough, but it probably ends up being full PPR. It probably ends up being Garrett Wilson there. Doza says start 2 in a full PPR, Singletary, Najee Harris, Trey Sermon, and Kirk. If Singletary is active, he probably gets to start there, and I probably play him alongside of Kirk, unless Flacco's active, in which I play Sermon alongside of Singletary. Thank you, Doza. Gibson or Sermon? Yeah, as of right now, unless Flacco's active, I play Gibson. Appreciate it. Alrighty, let's see. How long have we been here for? So we've been here for about almost an hour. Again, I appreciate y'all coming through. If you have not yet already, do me a favor, click the like button down below. Continue to help support the channel in that regard. Continue to help boost the algorithm. We are very much so close to achieving our goal of 90,000 subscribers. We're 201 away. Ever so close, ever so close to getting there. So the more likes you guys continue to click, the easier it is for us to get to that overall goal. I appreciate y'all continuing to support as we venture off in that direction. Let's see here. Deep says, which side wins the trade? Deep, where is your question? Unless it's following up. Oh, there it is. I see it now. It says Kraft plus Cooks for Achane and Smith. I'd rather have... So Kraft plus Cooks, right? Cooks is Brandon Cooks, correct? For Achane Smith, it's not even close. It's Achane Smith. Now, let's say, for example, it was Kraft and James Cook. I'd still rather have Achane and Devontae Smith. Thank you. Thank you, Handel. Appreciate that. Christopher says, Michael Pittman Jr. or Wicks? Whew, I'm not playing Michael Pittman. Nope. I refuse to. Thank you. Shakir or Ridley rest of season? I mean, again, I'd like to have Shakir on my roster rest of season. Again, he is pretty much the only person that Josh Allen feels comfortable throwing the ball to on a consistent basis. So, yeah, that's the direction that I'd go with in that overall regard because, honestly, it's not worth... Sorry about that. It's not worth going elsewhere because Ridley, again, is very much so contingently reliable on Levis playing well, which, again, I cannot guarantee. Devontae Smith or Pollard in a full PPR? For this week, I'd rather play Pollard. Thank you. Hey, Andrew, PPR, Pickens, Shaheed, or ETN in the flex? If it's me, I probably end up playing in a full PPR. I'd probably play ETN there, honestly. Stephen Peters says, I have Nico, Watson, Harrison Jr., Higgins, Ridley, Kirk, Hall, Stevenson, White, Harris, Irving, Kelsey, with Pacheco and Chubb on my IR spots. It's a 10-team half PPR. Who do I move for? Okay, let's see here. So you have Nico. What's your record, Stephen Peters? That's really the question at that point. Waleed, what's up? Says, what's up, Andrew? You told me to sit Debo for Garrett in the flex. But had him higher than... Did I tell you that? That's my bad then. That's a mistake on my part. Whoever's ranked higher, just follow that, brother. Listen, you've seen it. As we live stream, sometimes I misspeak. Yeah, there's no reason I would have... Yeah, I don't know why I would have told you to play Garrett Wilson over Debo when I have Debo ranked higher than him. What day was that on? Did you ask me? No, wait. You must have asked me on Wednesday, right? You asked me on... Maybe on Tuesday. I don't know. Depends on what day it was. But either way, maybe I can actually check what day it was. Let me check. Let's see here, Waleed. I go here and I go to... I'm going to find it right now. Let's see. Okay, so... This is from that stream. That is from that stream. Yeah, I don't know why I would. I had Debo ranked higher, so that's on my that's my bad. Yeah, sometimes I can't even trust my fucking self. Can you imagine that? That's disgusting. Sorry about that. Alrighty, continuing on. Am I dropping Ford or Rico for Tucker, Lazard, or Slayton? Only if you're gonna play them this week. Otherwise, no. Full PPR Shaheed or Slayton. Probably honestly rather play Slayton in that circumstance. Chase Brown or Rico Dowdle in a half PPR, Chase Brown. Tolbert, Kraft, or Laporta, pick 2 in a PPR. I probably end up I think I played both the tight ends there. Brees or Gibbs. I'd rather play Gibbs. McNichols or Tracy. Only Tracy if Singletary's out. We'll see that by tomorrow probably or Sunday morning. Did you do underdog picks? Yes, I did, and it's included in this video. Check out the video. It's at the very end. There's a timestamp down in the description. We could potentially go over them in a minute, but until then, let me continue to answer some of these questions. Okay, let's see here. Okay. Kyung Soo, 25, sends in a question. Says, half PPR. Evans, Mooney, Slayton, Tracy, Javante, start in the flex. Okay. So of the available, if I'm starting... How many am I starting here, though? 1 or 2, doesn't even matter. If I'm going to order them in terms of value, the way that I'd approach it is Mooney number 1. Probably, let's say if it's like a... Yeah, it's probably like Mooney, number 1. If Singletary's out, Tracy's number 2. Otherwise, number 2 would end up being Slayton, then Javonte, then Evans, then Tracy. Thank you. Chernobyl says, standard start bench cut. Njoku Kraft, likely. And start Murray or Fields. Okay, start bench cut. Start Kraft, bench Njoku, cut likely. Moving on, start Murray over Fields. Yes, thank you. I'll take Murray. Luis Castillo says, standard 10-team league. Trade my Mooney for Darnold. My quarterbacks are Anthony Richardson, Geno Smith, and Fields. There's also Kirk on the waivers. I'd rather just go pick up Kirk. Yeah, I'd rather just go pick up Kirk there. Also, I have Andrews at tight end. Do I drop for Kmet? In the long term, I don't know if it makes a huge difference in terms of swapping that, but for this week, yeah, I'd be okay doing that. Again, that's only if you're, man. Yeah, I've given up on Andrews looking like how he has in the past. So yes, I'm willing to make that swap. Let's see here. Jordan says, does DJ Moore and JSN sound like a good trade for DK? Or does Moore have enough value on his own? I think Moore, Moore, what he's done over the course of the last 2-3 weeks here, has designated him to be very similar in terms of value to DK, to where, yeah, I think you'd be giving up more than you are getting in return, potentially in that circumstance. Joseph says, need a wide receiver 3, help in a full PPR, Sutton, Trey Tucker, or Michael Wilson. Out of those 3, who do I prefer? If Jair Alexander's active, I'd probably avoid Michael Wilson. Therefore, I'd probably lean in the direction of either going Sutton or Tucker. If it's a full PPR, with Josh Reynolds out, I probably end up going with Sutton there. Antonio says, full PPR, trade Pollard and Laporta for Mixon and Goddard. No, I'd rather have Pollard and Laporta rest of the season. ECKZ X pretty much says, pick 2 in a PPR, Dowdle, Sermon, Tyrone Tracy, Ty Johnson if Cook doesn't play. Okay, so there's a lot of contingencies here, right? So if Singletary doesn't play, then Tracy gets the start. If Cook doesn't play, then Ty Johnson, I don't even want to play him. I'd still play Tracy alongside of Sermon in that circumstance. But that's only Sermon if, in fact, Flacco is there. Otherwise, you're actually playing Tracy and Dowdle. Now, if Singletary is active, you're not playing Tracy. You're playing Sermon and Dowdle. And it only ever, if you're in a situation in which we get a guarantee that James Cook's not playing on Monday, do you play Ty Johnson and Dowdle? You see, it's a maze. There are so many contingencies because we don't have full information as of yet on every single scenario that I can guarantee you, the volume of different scenarios I can paint in your situation X to how it's going to turn out or who you end up playing. There's 6 different situations. So unfortunately, as of right now, no guarantee. By Sunday morning, hopefully you'll swing on by and we'll get that settled. Thank you. Gucci Han, Louis Han says, my guy, full PPR. Who's my flex out of Tank Dell, Zach Moss, Jeremy McNichols? It's Tank Dell. Thank you. Bacon says full PPR, Deontay Johnson or Bucky Irving. At that point, I just play Deontay Johnson there against Atlanta. Thank you. Someone dropped Waddle. Do I drop JSN or Worthy? I'd rather drop Worthy. Thank you. Mikey says PPR. Who do I start? Garrett Wilson, Slayton, or Hopkins? I'd rather play Garrett Wilson pretty easily there. Yeah. Nick Abner says, someone drop. Okay, we took care of that. Ramiro says, I have Kirk and Chase Brown, but I'm not starting Kirk, and Chase Brown is questionable. I have Tolbert and Gibson on the wire. What do you recommend? I recommend you play Chase Brown because he's going to end up playing. If he doesn't end up playing, then you can drop Kirk in order to pick up Gibson and play him. Thank you. Okay, we took care of that. Mikey says, PPR, who do I start? I have Godwin as my wide receiver. Yeah, as my other wide receiver. Yeah, I mean, again, it's going to be Garrett there. Garrett would be the guy. Kaiser says, I also traded Bigsby and 30 Fab for Waddle. Yeah, that's a steal. Well done, Kaiser. Drew says, PPR, flex play. Pick one. Dowdle, Downs, or Cooper. Yeah, at this point, if it's probably just playing Downs there in a full PPR format, assuming he's healthy and ready to go. Constantino says, whoa, thought we'd be dropping Mark Andrews after only 5 weeks, 2024. Yeah, man, it makes me sick to my stomach. Flex Eckler or Mooney? I'd rather play Mooney. Okay, now if Brian Robinson's out, a conversation could be had. We'll have that conversation on Sunday Morning Access. I'm Gucci. Your Polo sends in a question. Says, PPR 10 team, do I trade London Ferguson for Saquon, slash Komet. Wow. You kind of, yeah. Your out of the running backs are Kyron, H.M., Brown, Jones, and your wide receivers are Hill, DK, Higgins. Yeah, I would make the trade. And I would then at that point, once you get back H.N., you would then just trade like Aaron Jones away and try to recoup some value at wide receiver. But yeah, I make the trade. Anytime you can get the number one overall player in fantasy, in my opinion, whatever it is you're giving, as long as it's not an egregious amount, I think it's worth it. Sean Waldron says, remember me? Collins IR and Mason injury? No, yeah. It's rough. Definitely rough there, Sean. Sorry about that, man. At the flex, Mike Evans or Scary Terry. I'd rather play Scary Terry there, Josh. Joe 19 says, no IR spot. Is it worth holding Pacheco? I mean, if you can survive with him on roster and he's not going to do a disservice to you until you get to week 11, then sure. Otherwise, I mean, if you have to drop him, you have to drop him. Honestly, if I was in your position, Joe, I would call your commissioner and say, you have to add an injury spot. Look at all the injuries that have taken place this season. Like, this is unacceptable. The whole league is going to revolt and then, start a mutiny, maybe a coup, either one. Roy Powell says, start Njoku, Ty Johnson, Hunter Henry, or Likely. Out of the group, I'd probably end up playing Isaiah Likely there. Thank you. Philly Freak says Bigsby or Gibson if Cook is out. Gibson. Hey there, Deontay Johnson, Josh Jacobs, or Mike Evans in a half PPR. I'd probably play Josh Jacobs there as of right now. Thank you. Tolbert or Slayton? I'd rather play Slayton there, Bob. Najee or Brian Thomas Jr.? That one's tough. I got to think about that for a while, actually. Was that Mixon, Irving, or Gibson? If Mixon's active, he plays very, very comfortably. That's the way I go about it as of right now. Okay, really quickly. So, again, typically I like to have the streams about an hour to an hour and a half, if potentially possible. We are about 1 hour and 10 minutes already in. Someone had mentioned Underdog Picks. I did mention it or include it within earlier today's video. So if you guys want to check that out at a full capacity, you can travel on over to, of course, the channel. Check out that video in regards to our, hidden gems of the week. Of course, Bucky Irving highlighting it as the thumbnail. But I also just want to go ahead and share the picks just so that we're all on the same page. I've told people in the past, if you want to get my picks, I don't advertise them anywhere. I don't put them on socials. I don't post it on my Patreon. I just, if people ask for it, I'll give them the plays that I'm rolling with. So these are the plays that I'm rolling with going into the week. So let me go ahead and share that right now. And then we should be good to go. Okay, so as you guys can see, these three plays. I mean, these are obviously preseason plays, and they're they're not doing very well either. Okay, so these are the plays going into the week. Now, you don't have to include them in the exact same, structure. You don't have to put 4 legs in this scenario, nor do you have to put $500 down, right? Because I'm a psycho and I can afford it. I'm able to. Okay, we're up a lot this year. Last week was very beneficial, but these are my favorite plays, honestly. Derrick Henry, anytime touchdown is beautiful. I mentioned it on earlier today's video. Underdog. In regards to my Underdog entry section of the overall hidden gems video, Henry has scored a touchdown 5 consecutive games. Easy clap. Should be an automatic play. And I even went deeper. The last 12 games that Derrick Henry has played, he has scored a total of 13 touchdowns. The guy's just a touchdown magnet. So even if he gets vulture because of the vulture protection on Underdog, so that means that if a player that is out of the running back position on the same team scores a rushing touchdown, it's clean. So if Lamar Jackson steals a rushing touchdown, which again, he has scored 2 in the last 3 weeks, if that happens, it saves Derrick Henry there. Either way, Calvin Ridley, I'm going higher than 44.5. Again, I talked about it earlier today. There have been 4 wide receivers in the last 5 games that have posted over 110 receiving yards against the Indianapolis Colts secondary. Calvin Ridley, DeAndre Hopkins should have themselves solid weeks this week. Chris Godwin should have a dominant overall performance, while Mike Evans on the opposite side of the field is getting completely he's being done away with and nullified, unfortunately, because of Marshawn Lattimore's contribution. So Chris Godwin, over the course of the last 4 games that he has played against the New Orleans Saints, he's gone over 80 yards every game. Multiple games of over 100 yards, and he's been able to surpass the 61.5 for the last 5 games he's played this season. So it should be in a pretty good spot. And then Bijan, again, when the actual fact of the matter is, let me just actually go find the statistic just so I have a referencing point. So when we talk about strength of schedule, right? The Carolina Panthers thus far this season, they have quite literally allowed 603 rushing yards to opposing running backs. So on an average, they're allowing 120 rushing yards per game to opposing running backs. If you were to tell me that somehow, some way, Bijan Robinson, as talented as he is, cannot run through this defense to get 67 rushing yards, then I deserve to lose $500. And that's how I'll live with it. Okay, moving on. The other plays that I liked. Bucky Irving going over 61.5, mainly because with the designated doubtful tag, it makes Rachaad White pretty much unplayable. It's probably a 1% chance he plays, probably less than that. 61.5 is a pretty solid number considering the Buccaneers run their running backs 20 times per game on average, about 19.4 to be exact. Darius Slayton going higher than 6 targets. Again, I mentioned it earlier today in the video. Again, if Neighbors is averaging 15 targets per game and Slayton's coming off of a week of 11 targets, I'd only imagine that Slayton can go over 6. I think this number is very much so slept upon. I don't know why it's so low. I could end up being wrong and the books end up cooking me, but so be it. Trey McBride going higher than 51.5, mainly because Jair Alexander is most likely going to be active this week. Jair Alexander makes that defense significantly better for the Green Bay Packers and certainly will make it a lot more difficult for Kyler to be able to deliver the ball to the boundary in their primary zone coverage, in which we're in a situation where we're getting a lot of overall coverage responsibilities from Jair against Marvin Harrison. So it's pretty much Kyler calibrating for that, going after the tight end position, which has found a lot of success against Green Bay. And in the final entry, again, I had the free play of Shohei Ohtani tonight. But outside of that, Jordan Love, 2 touchdowns. He's been able to score 2 or more touchdowns 9 consecutive games. CeeDee Lamb, I'm expecting him to go higher on receptions. Amari Cooper has posted 8 or more targets every single game this season. And anytime Zay Flowers is in a competitive matchup, has been able to surpass 10 or more targets every game. So let's hope that it's not a game similar to last year. You remember last year, guys, when we were like, oh man, the Detroit Lions are so good. This is going to be a fun game against the Baltimore Ravens. They lost, 39-12? I don't know what it was. Actually, I can confirm this. Let me find this. Ravens, Lions. They lost 38-6. Hopefully, it's not one of those games for the Washington Commanders, because otherwise I get clipped by the final leg of Zay Flowers. Okay, those are the picks. Do with it what you will. Otherwise, again, you can travel to Underdog and find a lot of other plays that you want to potentially roll with going into the week, because there are a bunch of them. Don't have to follow mine. You could literally just travel there yourself and, do whatever you'd like. A lot of plays, a lot of players. If you want, sign up, use code Andrew. Again, it supports the channel. Continue to help me out. Greatly appreciated. And you'll get my rankings every single Sunday morning. You'll be good to go. Okay. Thank you very much. Somebody asked for that, so we'll share that, and then we'll go back to answering questions, and then we'll close out the stream in just a moment. Okay. So, someone asked Olave or Mooney. We'll take Mooney this week pretty comfortably, actually. Auntie Slayer has sent in a question. Auntie, thank you very much. Says 12-man full PPR, 3-keeper league, 3rd and 5th pick, BTJ for J-Jet. So you'd be sending away a 3rd-round pick and a 5th-round pick for BTJ and BTJ for Justin Jefferson. That one is not as appealing as, because again, that pretty much just kills you next year. Like next year, if you're trading away a 3rd and a 5th in a keeper league, dude, it's going to kill you. But if you want, getting Justin Jefferson for the future, it probably makes sense, but you're just going to have a hard time competing next year. That's all it's going to do. So if it helps you win now, then sure. But if you're not going to win now, there's no point. All right, let's see here. We took care of that. Moving on. Thank you very much, Robert. We took care of that. Scrolling back up because I know there was a couple super chats that were sent in. I don't want to miss them. Took care of that one as well. Anthony O sends in a question. Thank you, Anthony. Says full PPR. My running backs are Brian Robinson Jr., Ramondre Stevenson, and Kyron Williams, which sucks right now. Yeah, absolutely sucks. Rest of the roster consists of Josh Allen, Geno Smith, Caleb Williams. Okay, so we're dropping Geno, sounds like. A.J. Brown, DJ Moore, Terry McLaurin, Shakir, Wanda Robinson, Kincaid, Kraft, Hawkinson. Any advice? Yeah, so we need to start trading for running backs. Listen, Ramondre probably needs to be traded away, but obviously now with the unfortunate news, you cannot. So you're probably in a position to where you have to literally drop some players in order to pick up some value and play them this week. If it means having to drop Geno and Shakir and Kraft, then you have to do it. Actually, no, you'd probably drop Kincaid instead of Kraft at this point in terms of rest of season value. But otherwise, maybe you can take Kraft if you want to keep Kincaid until Hawkinson returns and trade Kraft for a running back. Maybe, go and buy low on a Najee Harris in order to just plug him in for the next couple weeks here in the, unfortunate situation that you're in with all the injuries. Okay, let's see here. Scrolling back down. But yeah, in terms of like your wide receiver core with AJ Brown, DJ Moore, Terry McLaurin, you're pretty set. Wan'Dale Robinson, very comfortable at wide receiver. Unfortunately, just have too many injuries at running backs to the point to where I don't want to trade away Kyron. I just want to get rid of Ramondre, keep Ryan Robinson unless you can trade him for a running back that is very comparable in terms of overall value. So theoretically, if we were to actualize the context of what Brian Robinson's current value sits at, like in a full PPR format, theoretically, on a per game basis, Brian Robinson is about 15.5 points per game. So you'd theoretically be trading him for, I mean, as of right now, I mean, technically, like J.K. Dobbins would suffice. James Conner would suffice. Tony Pollard would suffice. Breece Hall, A-Chance. Well, I mean, obviously, you want somebody now. Swift, Bijan. But those are the kind of names that you'd have to kind of go after. You know what I mean? Hopefully that makes sense. Thank you. Let's see here. Hey, brother, I have an important question. Bigsby or Bucky? I'd rather play Bucky Irving this week, Rob. Thank you. Ando says, in a half PPR, Higgins or Brian Robinson Jr. if he plays? I'd still play Higgins there. Thank you. No problem, Steel Hands. Let's see here. Ashish. Is that the name? Ashish? Pretty interesting name. George says, full PPR. Start 2 in the flex. Positions, Kirk, Kyle Pitts, Keenan Allen, or Roshan Johnson. I'd play Kirk and Keenan Allen probably if it's my team in a full PPR. Jake Fry says Dobbs, Slayton, or Ladd. I'd play Slayton, Ladd, Dobbs in that order. Bucky or Chase Brown? I'd rather play Chase Brown as of right now. Just ever so slightly, though. Would you play Tracy over Trey Sermon if Singletary's out? I'd play Tracy over a lot of running backs. I'd have Tracy in my top 15 running backs this week if, in fact, Singletary's out. Top 15. So he'd be significantly ahead of Sermon in the format. All right, there was another question sent in via Super Chat. Says, Davis or Sermon? Davis or Sermon? So until we get a designation on whether or not James Cook is out, unless we get a designation by tomorrow or by Sunday morning, you have to play Sermon because you cannot wait until Monday to figure out whether or not Cook plays. So if by the time we get to Sunday and there's no information on James Cook, you play Sermon. If in fact James Cook is out by tomorrow or Sunday morning, you'd play Ray Davis. Moving on to your next question, BTJ Tolbert or Slayton. As of right now, I'm slowly but surely getting towards the conversation of convincing myself that it's Slayton there. Thank you. James says, happy birthday, Andrew. Thanks, man. Would you trade Michael Wilson for Likely? Sure. Yeah, I mean, look, Michael Wilson's kind of trade fodder in that circumstance. I have Bowers as my tight end. Also, it's actually my birthday. Hey, happy birthday, James. Well, hey, thank you for joining us on your birthday, my man. Happy birthday. Let's see here. Joseph says, Zay Flowers and for Cup, question mark? If you can trade Zay Flowers for Cup, I'd be willing to do so, yes. Tolbert or Leggett in the flex? I'd rather play Tolbert this week in the flex. I already have CD. That makes it so where you pretty much make sure that any touchdown CD doesn't get, you'll still be able to accompany for or, account for. Moving on to a question that comes in from Lex, who says, need to start 2. Slayton, Wicks, Ridley, Tolbert, McConkey. Slayton and Ridley are my 2 highest ranked of the group. Thank you. Jason S says, trading away DeAndre Swift for Waddle. Yes, absolutely. I'd be comfortable doing so. If you have the running back depth to, account for it, then sure. Oh, hey, happy birthday, Andrew. Yeah, it's not my birthday. So for some reason, this meme has gone on, and I love it. Listen, keep it going. This meme has gone on for about a week and a half now, maybe 2 weeks, that it's been my birthday every single day, but hey, we'll take it. Thank you. Appreciate it. Yours was last week, Frosty. Happy birthday, Frosty. White doubtful, Jacobs or Bucky? I'd still play Jacobs there. And let's see here. Stomps says JSN and Jacobs for Aaron Jones and Jaden Reed. Yes, I will take Aaron Jones, Jaden Reed rest of the season there. Stomps. Thank you. KJ Sticks says 10-team PPR, 2 wide receivers, 2 running backs, and a flex. Wide receiver are CeeDee Lamb, BTJ, Deontay Johnson, and Pittman. My running backs are Connor, Bucky, if White is out, Etienne, and Gibson. Cool. So the 2 wide receivers that I would play this week are Deontay Johnson and CeeDee Lamb at wide receiver 1 and 2. The 2 running backs that I'd play would be Connor and Bucky. Then the flex would be either between BTJ and Etienne, which at this point, considering all of the circumstances of the matchup, I legitimately think I end up playing Etienne there. Auntie Slayer says, it's your B-Day? Yes. According to the YouTube universe, it's been my birthday for the last, I think it's counting 15 days. So yes, thank you. Thoughts on Tampa Bay defense? Should be solid this week. I'll probably have them in my top 6, 7 going into the matchup against, of course, Spencer Rattler. Kaiser says, hey, Andrew, would you trade Higgins and Stevenson. Sorry, I want to trade Higgins and Stevenson. What wide receivers should I trade for? Higgins and Stevenson. Look, Higgins has played relatively well, to the extent to where maybe, let me check here. If I check it, Higgins, let's see here, Higgins. So Higgins right now is averaging about 16 points per game in a full PPR. If you're going to trade him away and you're going to add Stevenson alongside of it, I'd at least like to get back somebody that's a little bit more valuable. Maybe, like you want like a Drake London, right? That's what you want. So if you can get it done, then you go for it. Now, if you can go even further beyond that and go after an AJ Brown or go after a Tyreek Hill and you can afford to wait until Hill's return, then great. Otherwise, you could take like slight upgrades. Like you can go after Devontae Smith or you can go after Mike Evans-ish kind of player. But ultimately, I think you would just keep at that point because Higgins, or you can go after Cooper Kupp, who could, you know what I mean? Like those kind of options if you can wait for them to return. Prankster's Knight says, I have Chase, Godwin, Lamb, Waddle, and Watson at my wide receiver. Running backs are Stevenson, White, Brian Robinson Jr., and Bigsby. Is Lamb and Stevenson for McCaffrey and Pittman fair? Not to you, no. You'd be getting scammed. If you trade away Lamb and Stevenson for McCaffrey and Pittman, you scam yourself. So no, that's not fair. Thank you, Auntie Slayer, again for the birthday wishes. Yes, shout out to all October birthdays. For those of you who had a birthday, in the last couple weeks here or are going to, happy birthday in advance. Let's see here. Hey, Andrew, full PPR, Jalen Tolbert or Calvin Ridley? I have Calvin Ridley ranked higher. I'm excited about Bucky Irving, says Pat. Yeah, so am I. Very excited. Bucky, Pollard, Mike Evans, Zay, start 2. I play Zay Flowers alongside of Pollard there. Astro, thank you. Andrew, need 3. Wicks, Dowdle, Dell, Slayton, Rome, Ladd. Out of those available options, I'm going to play Dell, Slayton, and Ladd in a full PPR. Thank you. All right, guys, we've been here for about, let's see here, an hour and 25 minutes. I'm going to answer 2 more questions, then we're going to head out. Again, I'll be back tomorrow from 1 to 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and then, of course, back again on Sunday morning from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. PST. If you guys want to potentially get questions answered quicker, you could check out the Patreon, unlimited questions answered there, along with the rankings every single Thursday and Sunday. So if you guys are interested there, or you could also check out Underdog. Besides potentially tailing the picks, you can also use code Andrew to sign up today using code Andrew. I will be able to get you guys not only the first time deposit offer, but also my rankings every single Sunday morning for the remainder of the season. So we're going to answer 3 more questions and we're heading out. C. Crip says, I need a flex in a full PPR. Mooney, James Conner, Garrett Wilson. In a full PPR, you probably end up playing Garrett Wilson there. Anthony C. says, I got offered Mason for DK. Let me look at this trade here. You got offered Mason for DK. Sorry. I offered Mason for DK to the Christian McCaffrey owner. I see. Happy birthday. Yeah, I'm okay with that. If you can get DK out of it, that'd be great. But obviously, Mason just got injured, so he may not be interested. He may go pick up Gurendo in order to kind of screw you over. Auntie Slayer says BTJ in a third for, yes, that'd be far better. That's if you can dwindle it down to giving up less picks, then sure. Yes, at that point, I'd be comfortable on Slayer. X Onbu says, start 2, full PPR, Wicks, Downs, Ridley. I'll take Downs and Ridley there. Thank you. Supreme Bean says, start Tolbert, Slayton, or Ridley. I'd rather play Slayton out of the bunch. Thank you. What's up, Cheese Cards? How's it going? Cheese Cards, you came at the worst time, potentially, because that was the final question that I'm answering. I hope you guys are going to do well for the rest of the night. Again, it's still early over here. It's 9 a.m. I got people to see, places to be. I appreciate y'all coming through. I'll be back tomorrow afternoon. Until then, enjoy the rest of your Friday night and enjoy the guitar solo. I'll see you guys. Peace.